So the first thing that I wanted to do again was welcome you all and talk a little bit about the Bachelor's of Science in Public Health. And as I mentioned, you have Todd and myself on tonight. And so we're the two that help students out through this process. And while we will not be the ones reviewing any of your applications, we will be the ones answering your questions and helping you through that process. So public health at The Ohio State University, I don't mean to insult any of you and your intelligence, but I know there might be some students on the call tonight that maybe don't know as much about the two areas of specialization for our undergraduate major. Some of you might know this, but it is very relevant because when it comes to the application to the major, you will have to pick one of those specialization areas. So as you see from the slide there, we do have two, so it's one major, but two specialization areas. The first, environmental public health, rooted in the fact that our health and our well-being is rooted in the air, the soil, the water around us. And so students that are focused in this area are going to be analyzing those things, understanding how things like climate change, soil contaminants can impact not only our direct health care, but healthcare of those around us and maybe generations after. So you will see a little bit of a science-heavy focus there as you get later into that specialization. And then the other that I wanted to highlight is the public health sociology option. So if you are focused on this specialization area, we are looking at the role of the social environment around you, the impact or lack of access to healthcare, and understanding those determinants and what that can do to, again, not only you, but those around you. Students in this area have done things like analyzed how COVID vaccines weren't as effectively distributed in rural areas of Ohio, and how can we analyze, study, and change those things for the better in the future. So these are the two areas that you would be applying to with the application. Now, I did want to note that while there are two specialization areas, at the very beginning, you will see that you will still have the same core courses. And as you progress, you will branch out into those different areas of specialization, whether it be environmental public health or public health sociology. And just to wrap up a little bit more about our options for undergraduate students, separate of the application majors that the major that you're applying to tonight, we do have some enhancements to your degree. I did want to put a plug in for our honors program here at the College of Public Health. Students that are here at Ohio State and have at least 15 credit hours and a 3.4 GPA could apply for honors here. And you can actually be a pre-major or a major, or accepted to the major, I should say, to be considered for that. If any of you out there have already applied to a different professional program and were accepted into honors there, know that if you are applying to our major and you were in honors before, we would automatically grant you honors here. You just have to let us know that. But the honors program, it does offer those program enrichments, opportunities for you to further dive in intellectually with specialized classes that focus on really engaging you. You do have options for honors, an honors thesis, capstone projects, and the ability to graduate with honors if you stay with the program. We do also have the global option in public health. It is a concentration that adds thematic opportunities and courses, I should say, with an international approach. And that could range from coursework, education abroad opportunities, and it does fit in line with our undergraduate major as well. If you do have any other questions about that, you can always check our website or email me afterwards as well. Students are active. Some of you might actually be or have heard of the student organizations and the involvement that I have listed here, but we do ask that you consider that because it's a good way to meet fellow students that are in the major and working here at the college. And lastly, I do want to put a plug in for those of you applying to our major. Once you get admitted, know that you do potentially have an option to pursue a combined degree. Yes, that would be earning a bachelor's and master's degree. And you would be able to not only get your BSPH, but an MPH as well. And so when you think about your traditional undergraduate degree, it's based on a 4-year model, master's, of course, on that 2-year model. We work with students to help them get that in 5 instead of those 6 years. Students that are admitted to the major can consider this after 90 credit hours. And we do ask that you have at least a 3.5 GPA. The reason for that is because it will be accelerated, and we will challenge you. You will be taking not only undergraduate, but potentially graduate courses as well. So we want to make sure that you can keep up with those expectations of the program. So applying to the major, yes, that's why we are all here tonight. And I wanted to talk through a few details with you. I'm going to provide some snapshots here in a few slides as well. First and foremost, you must officially be admitted to the major. And when it comes to applying, that window, we're in the middle of it right now. It is December 15th to February 15th. So we are a little under a month from that right now. And that application cycle does come up once a year. So for those of you out there, if you are wanting to start officially in the major this upcoming autumn 2023, now is your time. I will show you as well here after I get done with my presentation where to find the actual application, but it can easily be found on our website by clicking that Apply Now link. I do want to make a note though, I'm not 100% if we have any non-Ohio State students, current Ohio State students in our session tonight, but know that there are 2 separate applications for current Ohio State students and non-Ohio State students. I do want to note though that it's not a different application. We're not judging you any differently, but the reason for that separate application is for our current Ohio State students. If you fill out that application, it should automatically populate current courses that you're taking that fit with our prerequisites for the program. So that is one thing that we want to make sure you apply that way, and we can also attach that to your current Ohio State ID. So a little bit more about those prerequisites as you look at the slide there. Students are required to pick a specialization area. So again, I did highlight those 2 earlier. We do ask that you have a minimum GPA of a 2.8. The reason for that is it's not a requirement for students after they graduate with a public health degree, but we know a lot of students do go on to graduate school, and we want them to be competitive. So we ask that not only do you apply and have a minimum 2.8, but once you're in the program, we ask that you keep that as well. We want to see a minimum grade of a C in each prerequisite course. And we do want to see that you have 30 or more Ohio credit hours by autumn 2023, which is the next cycle when you would be starting if you're applying in this current cycle. We do ask that you complete all of those prerequisite courses before starting this upcoming autumn. And I do have conditional admission listed there. If you are out there and you are thinking, oh, I'm like maybe wanting to apply, or I know I want to apply, but there's a prereq that I haven't completed yet. Maybe you're currently taking that. Maybe you aren't right at the 30 credit hours. You're pretty close and you will get there after this spring or this summer. Email me, talk to Todd or myself. We can work with you on that. And if you are on track and we see that, we can conditionally admit you with that understanding that that will be completed. And lastly, we'll talk about this in a little bit, but there is a 500-word essay that is required. And each essay, there is an essay that is tied to each area of specialization as well. Make sure that you do scan those properly. We want to avoid any chances of plagiarism, and know that that is also an essay that you have to have a works cited. You have to cite what you are writing there. So I mentioned those prerequisite classes, and I have those highlighted here, broken down by each specialization. What I usually tell students is just take a picture of this if you are confused. Now, this is definitely on our website, but if you want to take a picture now so you have that, you're welcome to. I mentioned it's broken down by specialization area, but it's also broken down when you entered the university. So pay attention to that, because you'll see that there are subtle differences in those prerequisite classes depending on the specialization and when you entered. So if you started with Ohio State summer of 2022 and before, you have a set of prerequisites. If you started just this past autumn, 2022 and forward, they are slightly different. So make sure you're paying attention to that when it comes to getting those prerequisites met when it comes to applying. I did provide a snapshot. Again, we will see this on the actual application in just a bit, but this is where you will indicate those prerequisites. And for our current Ohio State students, that should populate for you when you do log in with the current Ohio State application link. And this is a picture of a sample essay. For those of you that have already started the application, you probably already know what your essay is. This is not one of our current essays. It is one, I believe, from 2 years ago, maybe 3. And so that gives you a rough estimate, or a rough idea, I should say, of what we are looking for. So it is a public health related question, and also related to the area of specialization that you're applying to. So we want you to think critically and really analyze that and think very well on how you want to respond in those 500 words. I also wanted to highlight college transcripts. So when it comes to reviewing you as an applicant to the major, we do want to make sure that all of your College Credit Plus, AP, official college coursework is with graduate admissions. So that is definitely relevant for those of you that are not currently an Ohio State student or might be in the process of applying as a transfer to the university. Make sure you're getting all of those documents in, but they're actually needing to be sent as well to graduate admissions. For the current Ohio State students, you might be thinking, well, I'm good, right? I already applied, I'm admitted, I'm here. Central Admissions has all my information. Well, I can tell you that when it comes to processing not only applications, but application materials, Ohio State in general, we see millions of documents. And when you applied to the university as an undergraduate, those documents were housed over there with Central Admissions. Now that you're applying to a professional program, we want to make sure that those documents get sent over to the appropriate people so that they can get those verified and back to Todd and myself. That's basically a long way of saying, if you are unsure, email myself or Todd, or if it is on file and you know it, with undergraduate admissions, you can follow that bullet point up there and email GPA docs at osu.edu and just simply say, I'm a current student, I'm applying, can you move my documents or request my documents come over from undergraduate admissions? And yes, this is a competitive review. The benchmark, or the bullet points that I have here, know that these are not benchmarks. These are averages. So you might see that 3.4 average GPA. Again, that is an average. There have been students that have been admitted that were under that. Some were above that. It is going to be a holistic application review. We usually like to admit around 80 to 100 students to the major each year. And so again, within that range, we are going to be looking at every applicant. It will be read by our faculty review team. So it won't be actual people. There's not going to be a computer system reviewing you. It will be the faculty within our college reviewing everything that you submit. And we'll be looking at things like your current GPA, your coursework, the prerequisites, also that essay, which is a very big component as well. So make sure you're taking your time when it comes to writing that. With the admissions decisions, I already talked about some of this. Actually, I got a little bit ahead of myself, but we will be reviewing, and when I say we, again, it will be the faculty committee. We'll be reviewing applicants, and we will be doing those in batches. Our goal is to get decisions notified to you by mid-March so that you can get your schedule set up. And know too that it is a competitive admissions decision. You are going to be reviewed holistically. So make sure at the very least you do have a potential alternate schedule if you have something in line in case something on your application doesn't get through in time in this window, or you are not admitted to the program. But know that we are going to do our best to make sure that you are notified in the correct window so that we know you're wanting to get your schedule together and you know what you're taking next autumn. And then lastly, just some tips for applying. I mentioned quite a few times tonight that essay, and make sure you proofread it. Have a friend proofread it. Take it to the writing center. One of the things that our faculty are going to look for is not only did you analyze the question and write an effective response, but how well did you communicate that? Did you articulate your thoughts in a good manner? And how polished is that essay? So make sure it is free from errors. And so however you want to get that proofread, please make sure you do that. The application itself, I don't believe it's very long, but sometimes there are certain things that I can agree with you if you're thinking this. Could be a little tedious. So if you don't have the time to get it done in one sitting, make sure you're saving. At the end of every page of that application, there's a save button. You can always come back to it. And then lastly, make sure you are picking out your appropriate area of specialization. I did note up there that if you picked an area and then you left and backed out to a different subplan, past data will disappear. It will not carry over because that is a different application per se in the portal. So while the application itself and what you're filling out is the same, the way it's processed on the back end internally through IT is different. So again, that's a long way of saying you will lose your data and you'll have to start from scratch if you pick a different subplan. Note my email there, and I do ask that if you do have questions after tonight to please email me, and I will do my best to get back with you as soon as I can to help you through the process. I'm going to go to the application and share our web page. And so this is our College of Public Health homepage. When applying or when you are wanting to submit your application, I mentioned that you simply can start here on the public health homepage and then go to the Apply Now link. And when you click on that, you will see at the very beginning, as I'm hovering over this, you will see information about the Bachelor of Science in Public Health. And you will want to click on, depending on the type of student you are, either the application for current students or for non-Ohio State students. Now, I'm actually, as you can guess, I'm not a current Ohio State student, so I'm going to click on the application for non-Ohio State students because I will not be able to get into the other one. But note that, again, it is the same application. If you have not started this yet, you will note that it will ask you to create an account. You will set up a username, a password. It'll ask some basic information like first name, last name, date of birth, things like that to set up the account. Make sure you remember your password and email so you can get back into your application if you need to complete it at a later time. As a funny side note, that is not my usual username, and you cannot see my password. So I am logging in now to the application, and it should look something like this once you get in. Now you can see that I've already started the application. And so for those of you that have saved, I know there are a few of you out there tonight that did this. For those of you that already saved an application, you would just come down here and click on that application again. Do not click that delete application unless you did in fact start applying for the wrong sub-major or sub-specialization. So I'm going back into the application that I started for this evening. And when you look at the application itself, I want you to note, as it's taking its little time here, I do want you to note there are tabs that run across the top. And I have had in the past, and students will think they just have to fill out that top part of the application, and or the first tab, I should say, but they won't continue to the other tabs. So there's no next button at the bottom of the page, as you see here. It is just a save, and you would go to the next tab. So with the application, the first tab, it is personal data. And you would just fill out some basic information here. I put in an alias name, and you would also put in information about optional things like social security number, date of birth is required, and entering other information about yourself. One thing I will mention as well as we go through this, when in doubt, when it comes to the format of how you need to enter something, the application helps you out and adds links or buttons right next to the text box. And this application, it is very specific. So like, for example, here for date of birth, I could not put in the month and spell out the word. You would need to actually put that as you see as the number. So we help you out along the way, but if you do get to the end of the application and something is not in the correct format, you are going to get an error. And if you do get an error, I will tell you, it will take you back to the tab where you had the error. And so you can go and navigate to that section and fix that if need be. In going to the next tab, this is just a little bit of information about your current address and permanent address. If you look here at where I'm hovering, this text box is where I see the most challenges and errors for students, because it asks for your country of citizenship, or sorry, not citizenship, your country that you're living in. I apologize. So I'm going to put USA. If I scroll down and click away from this and don't look back, I think that I'm done. But if you realize once you type in the country of your address, a link pops up. You are required to go back, click on that link, and it will bring you to this page where you enter your address. This is a spot on the application where I see so many errors, and students will try to submit and not realize what that issue was. So that also is the same way for the current address. Moving on to the next tab, I mentioned that we do need to see transcripts, and this is echoed again here to make sure that they are sent to GPA Docs. If you do have a copy of an official transcript that maybe Ohio State doesn't already have, maybe you're transferring in, and you do have a copy that was paid for from said university, you'll be able to add that here. So what I mean by that is if you are selecting all of your previous institutions, and I'm just going to say, I'm going to pick a random university that I went to. I clicked the search button, picked a random academy, and once I did, you'll see that the add attachment button comes up. This is where you can add an official document, or I should say an official transcript if need be. I will point out as well, you do need to add the dates of when you attended. So make sure that that is added in as well too. If you don't remember the exact day, at least try and get it to the exact month and year, because that is going to be very important. And in speaking of those prerequisite classes from earlier in the presentation, this is where you will enter these. And I do apologize. You might have had some questions on this. I tried my very best to make this section concise, but there are several different courses at Ohio State that would fulfill the natural GE science course. So for those of you that entered the university summer 2022 and before, a prerequisite is that you have one general education natural science course from the approved list below. That is all of these listed down through here. So if you had one of those and you have credit for that, that would count. Like I said, I know that looks a little overwhelming, but know that you don't have to have all of these classes in order to apply to the BSPH. It would just need to fit one of these. But you would, in addition to that GE science course, need to have sociology, math 1116 or higher, and English 1110. So you would indicate those courses here. And for those of you that are current Ohio State students, that should be populating in. If you're having errors with that, we can chat tonight, or we can email back and forth. We can take a look and maybe we can share screens and I can see what you're seeing. We do have some additional information here. A couple things I will point out of major importance. If you have applied, this is to another professional program of Ohio State within the last 18 months. We would like to know that, and you can list that here. We also, in reviewing your application, we want to know when you entered the university. So thus far, I've been talking about prerequisites, and when you enter, this is where we would need you to indicate that so we can judge you on the appropriate prerequisites in our evaluation. And also you would indicate as well if you've had a prerequisite evaluation completed before, if you have applied to another professional graduate program. And we're almost through to the last tab. On that last tab, that is where the essay question will reside. And maybe some of you that have already started the application have begun this, but you will see this is the essay, the current essay question for environmental public health. Couple things to note. There might be an article listed that you would need to read. If so, make sure that you click on that and read through. Speaking of reading, I would strongly encourage you to read everything in this section very thoroughly. A couple things that I will point out as to why I'm suggesting you read very carefully. We do ask that it is a 500-word essay. This does not include your references that you cite. It is the text of what you are writing back to us. We also want to make sure that you are analyzing your own document for any accidental plagiarism. We provide links for that as well. And we also want to make sure that you are filling out this essay in the appropriate format. And this was actually asked of me by our faculty reviewers. So if you click on the essay format, it will take you to a sample document that shows you exactly how to format that essay. My advice would be download a copy of that and then work from that document to fill out your essay. And to that point, I would also strongly encourage you, if you haven't started on the essay yet, to copy and paste the essay itself. Save that to a Word document. And so that way you can work at this at your leisure. You can get it reviewed. Make sure you feel comfortable with that before you click that add attachment and then update your essay. And note too, the document types that are accepted. So make sure you're following that so it does get updated and added to your application. And we did provide as well a checklist for you when you're completing and finishing the application. And so make sure you're following along with all of those before submitting. For students that are current Ohio State students, this application does not require a fee. If you are not a current Ohio State student, there is a fee attached of $60. But if you do require a fee waiver of any sort, and you are eligible for one, we can consider you for that. Now, you do have to fill this out because if you are a current Ohio State student, you will get an error if you don't click this box right here where it says current or former OSU student. And then you would just check in there this as well. So this is your fee waiver code. If you are an Ohio State student, you would check that box, enter this code here, and it did not copy and paste, so I will just write it. And that would automatically waive the fee and allow you to submit the application. Now, if you are not a current Ohio State student and you go ahead and you click this and put in the fee waiver, there is a chance that we would see that, and then you may need to pay that fee in order for us to evaluate and process your application. Once you affirm and have completed everything in the application, you can submit. I would just, for the sake of safety, I would save one last time because you have, if you're to this point, you should be completing the application, but if there's any error or thing that goes wrong on your computer, and when you go to submit, know that it is saved there for you. You will submit it, and as I mentioned earlier, if there are any errors, it will take you back to the appropriate tab. So that is the application itself. And I'm just about ready to open it up for any questions that you have, but just a few other points I wanted to mention. Make sure you're very thorough when filling out the BSPH application. Make sure you have indicated the correct specialization that you're applying to. And definitely make sure you're taking time and thinking about what you're writing when it comes to that essay. Know that our faculty will be looking very closely at what you respond to that, in addition to your current academic credentials. I'm not going to be able to sit here and tell you exactly the type of essay 100% that they're looking for, but hone in on the things that I said earlier. Make sure that you're articulating your thoughts in an effective manner. Make sure it's polished and make sure you're speaking to the question that they are asking of you.